Well, hello everyone. Welcome to the Insights 2020 edition of what we call Art Encounters, Artists in Their Own Words at the Carolyn Campagna Kleefeld Contemporary Art Museum. In this edition, we will meet the Purchase Award winners and some other amazing artists who were chosen by the School of Art faculty to be in the student annual show, Insights 2020. Each of these gifted student artists will share their award-winning work with us, as well as a little about their process and practice. So we are honored to begin with Oscar Pearson, who is a double award winner. He won the Purchase Award that is shared by President Jane Connolly and also our Provost.
My name's Oscar Pearson. My painting, Axis Mundi, was selected for the Insights exhibition. And it's right behind me here. It's a 3-foot by 4-foot painting that I made. I made it on campus, and it was kind of an experiment, as paintings should be, I think. I started it outside, like a plein air, and then I wanted to work on it outside in front of the tree and then bring it into the studio and work on it without the reference. And I did that back and forth until I finally completed it in the studio. And that was a really fulfilling kind of way for me to work. I was just inspired, by the beautiful trees on campus. And it actually kind of starts with a story that during that semester, I was doing long days on campus from 9 to 7. And at lunch, I would take a nap on the grass. And one day, as I was getting up from a nap, these two evangelist Christian guys came up to me and started asking me questions about life and different things. And we got into this really great philosophic discussion, and we were talking, and it was a beautiful day and a brilliant conversation. And then all of a sudden they started bringing up hell and like what you had to do to get into heaven. They kind of lost me at that point, and I was just staring off into the distance and looking at the trees. It seemed like they were so determined to convince me, what I had to do to get to heaven. It seemed that they didn't have their eyes open to like the possibility that, they were already in heaven. It was just a beautiful day, and I was thinking about these things. And towards the end of painting the painting, the concept I remembered was that axis mundi. It's a Latin term for earth axis. I mean, that's what it literally means, but it's a symbol also, usually a mountain or a tree symbol that represents the center of the world where the earth connects with the heavens. And it can be seen as a symbol of like a phallic symbol, like an insemination into a uterus, or a feminine with like an umbilical cord providing nourishment. And I just think those are like interesting, beautiful way to think about the trees. And when I was looking initially at this tree, I wanted the branches to come kind of like over me. So as I was painting, I was looking like straight up almost when I was painting at the top of the canvas. And then there's a hole there was just this hole in the canopy of the tree, and it showed the blue sky. And I thought that was like, the heavens kind of just peeking through that connection between them. And so that was kind of the idea with the title, and just a really fun and successful painting. And I'm really happy to have it stay on the campus.
Great, thank you. I love how you have part of it kind of breaking out, almost being cubist in nature.
Yeah. So that kind of geometry that I was involving with the geodesic kind of dome thing that's part of the process of me working outside from observation, but then bringing it into the studio and kind of thinking about it just as a painting rather than copy of something.
It's gorgeous. I'm so glad it's staying on campus too, because we all know that tree and that spot right in front of the buildings there in the art department. It's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Oscar. Okay, we're going to move on. So the next speaker we're going to introduce is Daniel Garcia. So Daniel is the recipient of the ASI Purchase Award, and I love his piece. So why don't you tell us about it?
Hello, again, I'm Daniel Garcia. I am a ceramics BFA major at Cal State Long Beach, and my core artistic focus was at first functional pottery. My first mentor from my community college, he was a potter. So, it kind of grew on me, of course, as a first mentor to ceramics. And even going to Long Beach, which is the beginning of my third year, I began to explore more ways that I can work with clay and work with other materials with the clay, and also just the experimentation that's just so free. As soon as I went from community college to Long Beach, there's just so much diversity in everyone's work, and everybody has their own language within their work, and everybody has their style, which is just really inspiring, really, to really open the gates to something new. The piece Cow that I made that my first semester in my intermediate wheel throwing class with Jay Kavapel. This was an assignment, and the assignment was towards the different ways that you could use the wheel as a tool, and not necessarily use the wheel just for functional ceramics, but you can also use the wheel for sculptural pieces as well, which was something so simple, but yet something so hard to depart from, coming from a potter's beginning. I think this was a great way to get me into another realm of creating with clay. So Jacob Oppel, he put together a slideshow of Michael Lucero's work, which is an American sculptor. And with his work, it involves sculpture, hand building, and wheel thrown objects. With some of his pieces, he creates these. For example, there's these teapots that he makes, where he would make the form and the spout and the lids, but these forms were completely sculptural without any functionality to them whatsoever, along with paintings of narratives and abstract form and just really whimsical work, which is really interesting, which really got me going with this piece. So before I even made the cow, I made another piece. I made the piece, I dried it out, and I was getting ready to load it in the kiln. And as I was loading in the kiln, there's a bump. Well, for one of the kilns in the studio, there's a bump that you have to kind of go through for it to close all the way. And as soon as I hit the bump, I just heard a thud inside the kiln. And so I open it back up, and my sculpture just completely collapsed. And so, of course, I was devastated. I told Jay about it. He seemed pretty calm and collected, and he even told me, he said, don't worry about it. And he said, if anything, it's going to work to your advantage, because I think doing an assignment the second time is always going to be better than you doing it the first time. So I took this into consideration, and I kind of just thought about, what I could make in the style of Michael Lucero. So I had this idea of creating a cow, but at the same time using the form of my creation. So with the form of the cow piece, I tried to mimic a form of a tornado. And you know how in movies, when tornadoes hit, they always end up picking up a cow. So I tried to make it kind of like a little comedic as well. So I had this idea of painting a very, I'd say, fragmented piece of imagery around the pot that depicts a cow. And so at the same time, I just wanted the form to kind of create this narrative. And it was more of an experimental piece, really, just using the wheel and making bowls first. That was the first components to the sculpture. You just make bowls, and then you attach them on top of each other, and you make these saucers. And I just began to stack these saucers, and along the way through this whole journey with this sculpture, it was really fun, and I really enjoyed the assignments that Jay assigned to us in the class, and all the lectures were very engaging as well, which I'm very honored to have him, as an instructor before he retires. That's about it with the cow piece, but it really is one of those pieces that's really important to me, especially because it brought me out of that realm of just looking at the wheel as a tool and something that I could expand more with my ideas and thoughts.
So where are you in your education now? Are you in your third year or?
Yeah, I'm in my third year.
So what are
I
your
have
plans for
this.
next year?
So next year, I plan on working more in the sculptural realm. I have a kiln here at my house, so if the campus, won't let us use the kilns, then I have an alternative place to work. But yeah, I do have a series of works that I'm working on. It's more about landscapes and the fluidity of nature and whimsical stone formations, sort of like Chinese scholar rock. So I'm kind of working with these forms, but I'm applying crystalline glazes on these forms, and in hopes of learning more glaze techniques, I'd like to incorporate more texture to these forms as well. Just really working more with my hands, because I love the wheel. Don't get me wrong, but there's something about hand building it's just a whole new world, and the possibilities are just endless with hand building.
All right. So do you usually work in porcelain, or was this something new?
I usually do work in stoneware porcelain, and also with my new works, I'm starting to incorporate more groggy clay, like more sandy clay as well, and also darker clays.
Well, that's cool. Can't wait to see what happens next.
Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, so why don't we move on to Crystal, who has a film that was chosen for Insights, and it's so timely. The title is 2020, and I'll let her tell you about it.
Again, my name is Crystal Worley. I'm originally from Long Beach. I'm currently a studio art major with emphasis on photography, but I will be applying for the BFA program next semester. I just ended my first year here at Cal State Long Beach, so I was very excited. So the piece that was chosen for the Insight exhibition is a 1-minute video titled 2020. With many of my art projects, I sometimes have a hard time with the titles, at least for me, but this one came really naturally, because 2020 speaks to the year that really our lives were changed. And while this work was part of my experimental photography assignment for my class, it became more than an assignment, especially after seeing all of my footage brought together in one place. It almost became like a video diary, this really strange moment in time. The inspiration for the video was the campus itself for Cal State Long Beach. And because just a week before I shot this video, we were all on campus still, and the campus was full of students trying to find parking, students walking on the sidewalk and laughing with their friends and going from class to class. When I returned to shoot the video, it was very much different. I was really struck by how sad the campus felt. It was so empty. If you guys remember, this was like middle of March is when we had those back-to-back storms. The clouds were in the sky were like gray, big puffy gray clouds, white clouds. And, the ground was still wet from all the rain. And the parking stalls were empty. The sidewalks were empty. Pyramid, which is the icon of our campus, just seemed a little lonely. And so I was able to photograph or videotape shots on campus. And that's what you see in the video. What you see in the video speaks directly what our country was going through. See an airplane flying. If you are familiar with the campus, we're in the track of the airplanes. They fly constantly over our campus. But while I was there, one flew over the campus, and that's actually in the video. You see the cruise ship out in the harbor, the Long Beach harbor, and you see empty beaches. And so those are part of what we were going through at that time, that we're really still going through even today. And interestingly, I put a shot of myself in the video. You will see me while we're driving. I was not driving. I actually had my daughter driving because I'm high risk. I did not, I didn't want to get out of the car. A lot of the shots that you see is from my vehicle while my daughter was driving. But I wanted to put up the video of me, shooting this video as a way for me to remember that I was also experiencing this as well, not just as a photographer or a student, but as a person. And I thought that was really for me, very powerful. So I'll go on to my current work. That was the video. It is a short video, but I think that it's really powerful because it really speaks about the feelings that it has a feeling about it, and it's a feeling that I think we were all experiencing at the time. Currently, I'm working on two different ongoing projects called Small Scale World, can actually be seen on our experimental photography classes online exhibition called With Distance. And my other project that I'm currently working on can be seen on the Alex Mueller exhibition called What Sublime Southern California Landscape in a Time of Change. And the title is called Subduing Nature.
So where are you in your studies? Are you just about graduating, or no, you're still applying to BFA, right?
Yes. And this was my first year in the program.
Let's move on to Rachel.
Hi.
So Rachel's work is a mixed media still life, and her piece was chosen for the exhibition. It's called Still Life, and it's in mixed media, and it's really fascinating. So I'm going to let her share the whole story on how it came about.
I'm also a recipient of a scholarship, the Marilyn Werby Endowment Scholarship. My piece that was chosen as Still Life, and it's mixed media, so I want to share with you how I actually made it. I was always fascinated with new technology. I studied, I did a Master of Art at the Royal College of Art in London between the year of 1982 and 1984, and I did research degree actually. The title of my research was An Investigation of Some Factor Affecting the Use of Computer for Image Making. In those years, it wasn't a very friendly computer environment. You had to use mainframe to make kind of manipulation of images and learn to use Fortran, which I obviously didn't learn, but I had I needed help from a programmer in order to do my experiments. Things have changed, and currently, during the quarantine, where I didn't have a chance to continue with some of the work that I was doing in school. And by the way, I'm an MFA student in photography. I decided to learn a process and a coding called processing, which is a flexible software language that allow you to code within the context of visual art. And it's free, downloadable, and open source, and it can interact with different programs, 2D, 3D. So this particular code that I wrote is basically it allowed me to draw on a screen with one line. It actually produced one line, but it was flexible enough to kind of move all across. So I'll share it with you. So I'm basically using the cursor to do the drawing. So what I decided to do is to obviously I recorded this kind of, I made it into a short video by just recording the screen. And then I decided to take a screenshot of individual image and can bring it into Photoshop, try to make various compositions. So those are various compositions that I was doing. This is the one that was chosen for the show. It's not a typical work of mine. This is really something that I just started doing recently. And this one I think this one I also submitted, and it's called Bytes, BYTES, which means it's a unit of digital information. This is another piece that I submitted. It's called Pixelation. It wasn't chosen, and it's actually more typical to the kind of content of the work. And while it's showing, I will talk a little bit about my. So as an artist, as a feminist artist, I seek to create dialogue between the viewer and the artwork through inclusion of women's perspective. My work aimed to invite the viewer to question the current social and political landscape, and through this questioning, bring discussion around for change that require to achieve equality. My work embraces alternative material that are connected to the female gender, such as textile and photography. And I also utilize performance and video art, which are medium that do not carry historical weight of male dominance, unlike painting and sculpture. This is really the end of my slideshow, and I just want to say that I had kind of many gaps in my life where I didn't have time or money to produce work of art. Instead, I use my creativity every day in the shifting role of a student, teacher, actress, artist, mother, wife, and activist that I played over the last 69 years. Sometimes I'm not sure where my activism ends and where my art begins. But the continuum is important for me to maintain the struggle, which is not over yet. A woman's right to choose, equal pay, racism, sexism remain the issue that my and my daughter's generation of women still need to challenge and change.
That was fascinating. So where are you in your studies now at Cal State Long Beach?
I'm actually in my 4th year. I did a semester abroad. I went to Korea, and some of the images in my pixelation I actually done in Korea. It's a combination of augmented reality and 3D sculpture of my head, and it's kind of pretty complex. So I'm taking a little bit longer, but I'm hoping to graduate in spring 2021.
So it's my pleasure to introduce Les Femmes, who works in metals, and she has 2 pieces in the show. One is called Halo, and the other is called Saddle Build Stork, and I will let her fill you in on what happened, how they were created, and about her practice.
Hi everyone, my name is Les Femmes and I'm an BFA in metal and jewelry. Since this semester, before I was an art studio in general, I got 2 metal artworks was chosen for the inside shows. The first one is called Halo. At that time, I was studying art history, and the halo above Jesus Christ head. I love it because I'm a Buddhist, and this is first time I learned about Western art history, and then it fascinated me, so I decided to incorporate it into my work. This is also my project in my class. It was inspired from modern art form where I use minimum of materials and components, and also how I can handle, feel, stretch, and connect with material. So I decided to make a really simple form with a rod about the head to represent the halo. The second one was a saddle build stork. I picked stork because it reminds me of my childhood, because I grew up in a small village in Vietnam where storks everywhere on the fields, and I picked this stork because it is so pretty. This one's really special because it's from Africa. The pigs have red, yellow, and really colorful. And this one is totally different from the first one, where it have like 30 individual pieces, but I try to connect them smoothly, make the viewer feel overwhelming when they look at it. Also focus on sculpture, so most of my works was in sculpture form. And right now I am working on my senior show, which is happen next spring. And yeah, I just sketch and brainstorm some ideas. And also right now I also pursuing an art teaching credential at the same time. And because I really want to be an art teacher to help my students to explore and develop their creativity, their imagination, and to believe in themselves that they can create works of art, because I believe every child has the potential to be an artist. Yeah, that's what it is. Thank you, guys.
It's my pleasure to introduce Sara Garcia, and Sara is the Purchase Award winner for the Dean of the College of the Arts. And I was there when Margaret Black announced it, and she was so impressed with the work and the depth of it. So I hope that maybe you can talk a little about the background of the work, your medium, and then maybe a little about your practice. So I'm going to turn this over to Sara Garcia.
Hi, Idle Hour is part of this ongoing series of rooms that I've been working on, in which I've just been using memories and spaces that I have inhabited just to kind of focus on moments of isolation that arise from different light conditions of night and day that occur within the space. And I just kind of try to make the images familiar enough for someone to identify them as a room, but I do really try to make them a little bit more dreamlike. I try to play with like color and light and things like that.
So the light is coming through the image there. Is it coming from a window or another light source?
Yeah, so in that specific painting, I do have the window on the right and the light is coming in from the right, and then there's light in the room in the very back. It's coming in from like a TV.
And it's oil on canvas?
Yeah, it's oil on canvas. It's 60 by 30.
So what are you planning to do now? You're graduating?
Yeah, this is my last semester. I think I just want to continue making work and attending more shows and showing my work a little bit more. I really want to apply for grad school. I was going to wait a little bit longer, but I think with everything that's going on, I want to give it a shot in the next round. So in the winter, I think, and then see where that goes.
So did you always just do painting? Have you done other media?
I've always done drawing. Drawing has kind of been like my main thing since I was like little. And then because I was at a community college before I transferred over to Cal State Long Beach. And I took a painting class just for fun. And I just fell in love with like the medium. It was just so different and flexible. And you could just get all these like different results from it that you just can't do with like drawing. The scale of it, it's just like really exciting, like the process. So I think I've been painting for maybe like 6 years.
Are you thinking of doing anything else, like adding teaching or anything to your background, or?
Yeah, well, because I do want to go to grad school, and I feel like I see the impact that my professors have like left on me, and like every other teacher that I've ever had. I do think I'm open to it, and I'm just kind of like playing it by ear. And if I end up with an opportunity that presents that as like something that I can do, I would definitely be open to it.
So Jonathan's piece is actually untitled, right?
Yeah.
But it's such a fascinating piece to me. It's recycled skateboard and walnut.
Yeah.
So maybe you can tell us how this all came about, Jonathan.
Essentially, I took a wood turning class last semester. Like, I wasn't really sure about it, but it kind of sparked something in me, like something about the hands-on that really kind of, I don't know, I'm kind of blinking out here.
I know for me it's like tactility of wood, you know?
Yeah, I had no idea how it was going to impact me in the long run. I just took a class and it kind of became very intuitive. I just had all these skateboards laying around. Like for a skateboarder, it's almost like a trophy. Like you really, even if the skateboard's broken, you don't really want to like discard it or trash it. So it was very easy for me to kind of just transition from regular wood to skateboards. Like the class was wood spinning. You pretty much end up working on a lathe, and I found that to be very therapeutic, sitting on the lathe and then just carving away. When this project was presented to just make whatever you wanted, I thought it would be really interesting to kind of incorporate this lamp with skateboard.
So that was not the assignment. You just brought that to it, right?
Yeah, it was a very open assignment. It was essentially just involve some wood turning into it. And I felt like the lamp had those components where the base was pretty much a bowl and the top of the lamp was also a bowl.
So does it work?
Yeah, it does. I actually use it.
So what are you working on now?
Yeah, funny enough, after that class ended, I actually purchased my own lathe. And I've been working on, like recently for a sculpture class, I made an egg purely made out of recycled skateboards. I also made a stool made out of walnut and skateboard.
And so you're not graduating. You have one more year at Cal State?
Yeah, I have a whole year left.
Do you feel like what you're going to do is, will you want to go on to grad school after you graduate, or just work in the field? What are your plans?
I really do want to apply to grad school, but I'm contemplating taking a year off and then kind of just exploring a little bit more and then working on some personal projects.
And so the work behind you, is that your work too?
Yeah, essentially I come from like a drawing and painting background too. Just seeing all the work in Long Beach kind of inspired me to just kind of look around and explore. And I'm very interested in not just painting, but also like sculpture and printmaking and now wood.
So you don't know where you'll end up, right? Maybe just doing it all?
Yeah, I think after taking those 101 classes with the artist talks, I really like the idea of being like an all-in-all, like super artist that kind of does a little bit of everything. Just kind of seeing all those artists that kind of go from drawing to sculpture and then back to drawing. Like, I really like that.